Hello.
For the podcast, I could just read my physics homework out loud.
Welcome back to Can You Not? I'm Joe. I do movie things, although not really much recently. Mostly just podcasting and YouTube things.
I'm Amber. I don't get enough sleep and I panic over exams.
I'm Brian. I've been doing too many movie things lately. My head hurts.
So you thought I'd take a break and be on a podcast instead. Yeah. Today's theme, as chosen by me, is medicine/hospitals, however you want to take that.
Healthcare.
Yeah, the medical field in general. And who would like to... Oh, by the way, I should congratulate us. Our past 2 or 3 episodes have been our best, most listened to since last July.
Wow.
So...
Does that mean I said something stupid?
I don't know, but whatever we're doing, I guess it's working because
keep listening, peeps.
Our views are, I always say views. Our streams are way up.
Hooray!
We should do a live, like a video episode though.
We should.
I thought you were gonna say we should do a live episode at a bar.
Which we want to do more of. I just haven't had any.
Jesse disagrees. Jesse's not about it.
Jesse's not down with the hecklers.
We used to consider the only option for births to be to be done in a hospital. I was like, home births, they're dangerous. They don't have medical professionals there. They don't have equipment when they do cesarean sections. It seemed very obvious to, I always was very confused why women would choose home births, and sometimes it just seemed kind of like hippy-dippy BS to me, to be like, I just want to go all natural and have my baby in complete pain without meds.
You think the hospital's going to take the pain away? Come on, Joe.
But I've been doing a lot more research into the matter, and I've been learning a lot about a lot of complaints that some women have when they give birth at hospitals. Reports of women who have felt very... that they've been treated inhumanely by the doctors and very impersonalized, maybe even taken out of the process entirely. They just might even put you to sleep while it happens, or the doctor will, just treat you like a procedure rather than a person in that moment, and a lot of really just very disingenuous sort of encounters. So I still worry about home births and how dangerous they might possibly be. But I've been reading into something called birth centers, and they are sometimes associated with hospitals, but not always. But they're usually located close enough to a hospital that it can get to a hospital in case there's some sort of situation. And basically, they're set up in such a way where they are big groups of women with midwives, and just it's done in such a way where every person is made to feel like it's a very personal experience. They're fully part of it, but it's still done in such a way where it's it's not at home, so you're not by yourself, but it's not quite a hospital. It's like this in-between thing. So I'm guessing, I wonder, just based upon me telling you about this, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
Right off the bat, I've always thought it was interesting. I don't think it's bad that births happen in hospitals, but, animals give birth.
Right, everywhere.
Right.
And I mean, a lot of times, you have the animal husbandry part of it where, you have people helping along, but, there are complications, but, a woman can give birth. It happens pretty much regardless. So, I think it's interesting that it's not even something most people consider to have home births, or that it is considered hippie-ish to have a home birth when you can do it. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know anymore, but I'm pretty sure you're not given pain meds when you give birth, because for a while they were, and they found that it had negative effects on like the process. I don't have details, but like that was like, it was like in the 50s or something, or in the 20s, one of those, where they were giving like painkillers or something, or even like putting the woman out completely for the birthing process, and then like they realized this is a really dumb idea. So I guess that was my primary thought right off the bat.
I never really thought about it, but I can see the benefit of wanting to have a home birth in terms of it being more of a personal experience, because having a child is a very personal experience, and you want to, I mean, you don't want to feel like you're just in a machine and you get cranked out and pushed out,
Right.
like that one night in the hospital, now you're done, get out,
Yeah, I was a little because I had read an article a long time ago that some research had been done that home births were supposedly twice as dangerous as hospital births, but I found out recently that research had later been disproved, and that they essentially have equal amount of risk associated with them. So that really made me rethink it a lot, because you just naturally assume, hospitals they have every single way of measuring every single part of the body and what it's doing at every single moment, but I think there is something to be said about the humanization of such a huge thing, and I would be all before, like, if hospitals can make it feel more humane. Like, sometimes they said sometimes even doctors are assigned to multiple births at a time.
Right.
So
that's what I was gonna say. I feel like the experience will be a lot better. Like for me personally, when I'm at the point where me and my significant other are ready to have a child, if I can afford it, I would probably hire someone to specifically be assigned, like, you know what I mean, to monitor just this pregnancy. You know what I mean? If I could afford it. Obviously, that's not a normal thing, but like, that's the ideal thing, to have one person that's looking after your pregnancy and is focused on what's going on here. But also makes it, like, you know what I mean? Like, that makes it a personal experience, and you'd have that expert that's there to help.
Right, and the other thing too is that I feel like it would be, I don't know, like, I feel like an added part of the stress that could come, I don't know anything about it, honestly, but that could come with pregnancy, it would just be like, okay, well, here's my projected delivery date, I need to make sure I can get to a hospital. Like, right now, I need to make sure I'm able to get to a hospital. Like, at every moment starting now until I give birth, I need to make sure I can get to a hospital. And I feel like, you can't, I mean, I assume you don't drive when you're in labor. Like, so that means you need somebody, like, around who can get you there. And, like, I feel like just being able to say, okay, well, I'm just going to sit on my couch now, or something similar to that might be, like, that logically makes sense to me as something that would be more comfortable. So something like, I mean, I don't really. So these centers that you're talking about, is it just another place to go?
Yeah, like, they're set up in such a way where, like, they have a certain, they still have, like, the midwives who have been helping you along with the process from the beginning, but it's like, it's an environment where it's a little bit more controlled than a house, where they do have some medical materials there, but they might also have just, like, I don't know, like, a relaxation area that would be more comfortable to give birth in than at home or something like that. Or even some of these, like, tubs that you hear about where
the water thing.
Yeah, the water-based ones. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting because, like I said, I think I was very judgmental about that before, and I thought I was so superior, like, science is clearly the best in this regard. But, like, like you said, people have been giving birth since people started existing.
Right. Since before hospitals.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, I'd obviously, I'm not trying to, like, overstep my knowledge, because this isn't something I do a lot of research on, but
right.
I mean, just, like, if there are dangers associated with it, I mean, obviously you'd want to go to a hospital, but like, the people give birth. Like, birth is a thing that happens pretty much regardless. So
I mean, my suggestion would be to not avoid hospitals, like, completely. If you want to have a home birth, you have to make sure that it's what's safe for you and your baby.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, every pregnancy is different, too,
Right. like maybe still go to the hospital along the way to like
Right.
get checkups on what's going on. and
Make sure
everything.
you're still on the right path to be able to have a home birth, if that's your preference.
Right.
I mean, if they're equally as dangerous, then
Yeah. And I think too, like, especially if these midwives have had like long experience in training, you know, not just like any old person that show up and is, I have a diploma that I got online.
Right.
You know, like it seems like there are specific training circuits for some of these midwives where they can like spend like a good portion of time actually learning and experiencing and being with these women. And yeah, I think it's a really interesting alternative, and especially if they are close to a hospital in case something happens, like it seems like a very humane, sort of respectful option, I guess, to me. But I don't know.
I don't either.
Brian, when you gave birth, did you ever consider anything like this?
no, I just dropped the baby where I was standing.
It's kind of.
I don't know if that's how that works, Brian. Brian, I don't think that's how that works. Brian, I think you need to talk to your mom.
He's never had to talk. The
Oh,
birds and the
no.
bees.
I don't think that's
Mommy,
the talk. I
explain
think
it.
you should just... Mom, could you have given birth to me standing upright? The title of this article is Hallucinatory Voices Shaped by Local Culture, Stanford anthropologists say. So they did a study on people who had schizophrenia. And it was 20 of the people were from California, 20 people were from Ghana, and 20 people were from India. And I can't pronounce these cities, so I'm not even going to try. There were 31 women and 29 men, and their average age was 34. And they were asked how many voices they heard, how often, what they thought caused the auditory hallucinations, and what their voices were like. They found a striking difference between the African and Indian subjects and the people from California. And it is that the people from Africa and India registered predominantly positive experiences with their voices, and not one American did.
Ah.
So the United States subjects were more likely to report experiences as violent and hateful and evidence of a sickness. Whereas, let me try and find this. The Indian and African people, like one of the things that they would ask would be, do you know who's speaking? Did you have conversations with them? Like, what did the voice say? And a lot of the Indian and African people could tell you who was talking to them. Or, it was more playful, like, were their responses. And one of the theories about this, and I can't find it in the article right now, I wish I could find a quote for you, is that the United States people were the only people who talked about their voices as if it were a sickness. They talked about the medical condition. They talked about schizophrenia. The African and Indian people did not talk about it that way. So in the United States, it's perceived as a medical condition, I am sick, whereas it's not so much perceived that way in these other places. And the other thing, too, is that in the United States, it is the individual who is valued. You value yourself. Like, it's all about what you can do. Whereas in these other places, the value is put on the community. And you pair this communal thought process with, the mythology and the lore and the religion that goes along with these two separate places. And they ended up with more, playful, joking, like, spirit kind of, like, poking at your day kind of experiences. I just thought that was incredibly, incredibly interesting.
That's really interesting.
And so they're talking about how important this is in terms of treating these, like, disorders. Because, like, I would have never even thought that schizophrenia would manifest itself differently based on where you live and your culture. And, like, that's just crazy.
You said it asked how many voices you heard too. Was there a difference in that?
I will have to dig it out. I don't know if they asked how many
okay.
voices there were.
That'd be interesting too. Oh, our guest Shelby that has something to say. It looks like.
Okay, so I think that's so interesting just because I talked about that in my abnormal psychology class last semester.
Talk louder.
And yeah, my teacher said that a lot of times in other cultures in terms of schizophrenia, like she said, it's not considered a disorder, and a lot of times it's seen as someone having like mystic powers, or it's seen as someone having, superhuman powers or something like that. So it's more so celebrated than it is like considered a disease or considered something wrong. And I think that's why they have a more positive experience, because it's not considered bad. Like, it's just considered, I guess, something, different and something mystic and spiritual that not everybody, has. So I think that's probably why.
One of the words that they use is intrusion. In the United States, the voices are an intrusion upon, yourself as an individual. Whereas in these other countries, since it's not as self-focused, it's not necessarily perceived that way.
So there are two things that I kind of wanted to compare / question, relate this to. The first thing would be deaf culture, and how within deaf culture it's not seen as something is wrong with you. You know what I mean? But to someone to a lot of people who can hear, it's seen as you're missing something. You know what I mean? Whereas within deaf culture, it's not seen as you're missing something. It's just you're different. Like, you're a part of this culture. You know what I mean?
You're either hearing or non-hearing, and there's not a deficit associated.
The other question I would have, although that first one wasn't really a question, is it seen the same with things like multiple personality disorder? Even though that's usually caused by like a PTSD type of incident, I wonder if other cultures see it not as
as a disease.
Yeah, but more like you're gifted because you have these multiple personalities, these multiple beings living within you or within your mind. You know what I mean? Because, if you see the movie Split, which I highly recommend as a very, very good movie, they talk about some of the actual science behind multiple personality disorder, like the fact that you can, like, one personality can have a higher blood sugar than the other one. You know what I mean? Or things like one personality having better eyesight than another one, or things like that. So, and I did do some research on that after seeing the movie. Both Shelby and I did do research.
Okay. Because I don't know if I would necessarily inherently trust in M. Night Shyamalan.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like concrete stuff. Like, there was some stuff that clearly was made up in there, but there was some actual science related to it. So,
yeah, it's I think it says a lot about just how we view quote unquote mental illness as a whole too, because we see, not having anything like that normal, and someone who does have it is abnormal in some way, or we even use it to mock people in a lot of senses, like, we say, oh wow, Trump is really mentally ill, and we use it as like this huge insult when, like, he may or may not be mentally ill, but that's not necessarily the first thing we should jump to, I guess.
It's not what makes him a bad person.
Yeah, it's certainly not what makes him a bad person. He's fully capable of being a bad person without any attached to it.
I always think this kind of stuff is interesting. I did a paper in my psych class, and it was on major depressive disorder in black men was the premise of the paper. And it was really interesting reading about it, because even something like, I guess it is cultural difference, but within like if you look at men who have major depressive disorder, the symptoms manifest differently in black men than they do in white men. Like, the symptoms are literally different. For a really long time, psychologists or therapists or whoever is diagnosing these people were not diagnosing black men properly because they were using the symptoms that white men had. So it's stuff like that people, it's so interesting how these mental health things are so related to like culture and perception and that stuff. Because that was another thing that I would have never even thought about. You know, like somebody gets a cold and somebody else gets a cold, but that's not how it works with these psychological things. You know.
That Donald Trump comment kind of took me back to a post that I saw on Facebook the other day that said that that racism is actually like one of the leading causes of, like, it's a leading mental health issue within children in America. I think it's very interesting because I'm sure there are a lot of people within America that don't think of racism as a mental health issue.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Do you mean the kids suffering from other people's racism?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I wonder if a certain amount of racism is passed down genetically at all.
I don't think
know.
it's genetic.
Yeah, I don't, because it's not. I mean, it's not a thing you're born with. It's a learning thing. I mean, maybe I don't know.
But could people be more susceptible to? Not like they're born like I hate black people, like I don't know,
right.
But like, I wonder if there's people who are born more susceptible to being racist than other people. I wonder.
That's Myers-Briggs says there is, but Myers-Briggs is pseudoscience.
Right. And I guess I don't want to get into that territory because then it might seem like, well, that person can't help it. They were just born inherently more likely to be racist.
Right.
Well, I think, but these, I'm pretty sure, and I'd have to double check just to tie this off real fast. With this, the people with the auditory hallucinations and the major depressive order in black men versus white men, I think a lot of the manifestation of these symptoms and how they're perceived does have to do with culture. I don't necessarily think it's genetic. And I don't know that for sure as far as the major depressive disorder thing goes, but I'm pretty sure a lot of it does have to do with like how you're raised and your perceptions about how things are supposed to be and that kind of stuff. So
well, speaking of perception on things supposed to be,
that's not what I said.
have you ever not had your car like it was supposed to be?
What does that mean, Joe?
Has it ever broken down, been missing a part?
Not had your car like it was supposed to be.
My car is supposed to be electric. I hate it when it's not electric. My car's supposed to have gas. Man.
I'm supposed to have a car.
Well, say you had a car and it was not as it was supposed to be. You might want to go to Advanced Auto Parts. It's a place you can go to that has car parts and car things that
And
you
guess
can
what?
get.
They'll get them right.
Right. They have headlights. They have car wash. They have battery chargers, tools, and wipers. A little bit of everything. Could really spruce up your garage with some of this. And if you want to...
Might become Uber eligible.
Yes.
Or Lyft eligible. Lyft.
Yes. Drive Lyft. Maybe I'm going to get them as a sponsor. That'd be really cool.
I hope so.
But
I love that.
In the meantime, if you want to get 20% off your first order from Advanced Auto Parts, you can go to advanceautooffer.com/canyouNot. Once again, that's advanceautooffer.com/canyouNot for your 20% off first order.
Woo!
You'll notice we did not try to improvise a skit this time, so maybe we could try that
way
next
too early in the morning
Next
for that.
time. Early in the morning.
Way too early for that.
That's
Too
good.
early, guys. I can't do it.
Just for
crap,
reference,
it's
it's
me
9:16 p.m. for the listeners.
The two of you know, many of the listeners may not know, but my mother recently had brain surgery in December. And one of the things that I've noticed, because my mother is a person that has lived with type 1 diabetes for a while now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and she has learned to manage it in her own ways, kind of, somewhat manage, because, I mean, it's type 1 diabetes, you know. You manage how you manage. But when she had the surgery, which had a lot to do with her blood, actually, she had to stay in the hospital for a while, and the nurses and doctors changed the way that she would normally treat her diabetes. And that caused a lot of fluctuation within her normal range of blood sugar and other things. So they changed like her medicine dosage, they upped it, and a lot of other things, which most of which were as a result of the surgery, so they had to do it. But in the long term, it kind of threw off her blood sugar and her normal schedule. And I just thought it was weird how kind of like, I don't know, like when we would talk to the doctors about it, they wouldn't recommend her really going back to what she did before. They kind of had it in their head that, like, this is what her routine is supposed to be. So for people that live with disorders that, like, you have to come up with your own routine, I wonder, like, I don't know, like, I just think it's weird how, like, I wonder how often it is that they're told to do otherwise and, like, it goes wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a thing that is kind of interesting is that, you know, doctors go to school and they get their medical degree and they figure out how it's supposed to be. But a lot of that is based on, I think, averages. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, I know people who are, like, technically underweight. Like, they're officially, according to the doctor, they are underweight.
Right,
but
completely healthy.
But yeah, and they eat the amount they're supposed, like, they eat till they're full, you know, mm-hmm. They don't not eat, like, and they live their lives and they feel fine, and it's just, but they're underweight. You're supposed to gain weight.
I graduated high school. So
yeah, so it's like there's no one size fits all for health, and I feel like it can be hard to work with doctors on that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because they know what they know. You know, they have their degree and all this stuff, and they went to school forever. But it's not. I mean, I don't want to say it's not as simple as that, because their knowledge is vast, and that's not simple. But it's not as easy as saying this is how it's supposed to be, and then putting that over every person. Right.
Yeah. I've sometimes questioned, because I've been going to a doctor who is older gentleman, and sometimes I question his practices because I'm like, that sounds a little outdated. So I kind of wonder how often doctors are forced to keep up with the latest advancements. I realize that some of them probably, because their love for the field, probably just naturally do anyway, you know. But I wonder, like, how often are they forced to keep up with everything? Do they have to take regular tests to find out what the latest data is? I don't know. It seems...
I feel like they should.
I don't know.
I mean, you should know it even if you're not using it, you know?
Yeah. I feel like I don't know about doctors, but I know for engineering, if you don't keep up with the latest stuff, you're going to fall behind, because if you're not with what's going on and your company's trying to move forward, right, and you don't know what that is, then you're going to replace you with somebody else who knows what's happening.
Like, what if they find out gravity isn't real, and then that changes everything?
So... Okay, that's physics. That's not engineering.
I feel like that'd be useful.
I was waiting for Amber's
rebuttal.
That would be a physics thing. I don't think that would change any of the engineering anything, like, at all. Because we're still here, on the ground, on the futon. It's not going to change.
They would just call it something different.
The physics people would be like, oh my god, look at this new particle. And the engineering people would be like, okay.
Cool.
How does that make us money? No, but I don't know. I feel like doctoring could be a difficult thing.
I feel like maybe that's a good idea for a lot of crafts, though. Like, and I think just even for something as simple as driving, I think it's a good idea that, like, every 10 years we should have to go back and, like, because, like, think about that. Like, think about some of these people on the roads.
Maneuverability.
I have to do that again? No.
But that seems really fair to me. Like, if those are the rules we're expected to abide by when we're 16, shouldn't we be expected to abide by those rules throughout our entire lives? Like, and
one
if you
thing
can't meet those requirements...
I would say, though, like, when I was getting my license, my aunt was talking about how maneuverability was not a thing at all when she got her license 20 years
Didn't
earlier.
they just learn parallel parking?
Yes,
Yeah.
like literally she parallel
Something that was
parked the
actually
car.
useful.
Exactly. So like if she were to have to do maneuverability now, they might take her license. But she can drive perfectly fine. Like she knows the rules of the road, like, you know?
Yeah.
I could see it being like one thing to say like, okay, every 10 years you have to take another like you know how they have the written test where you need to know the actual laws of the road.
Yeah.
But to actually have to go and test in front of somebody is a little difficult.
But it seems like, I don't know, that's why, again, I'm a big advocate of self-driving cars. So you think especially about elderly people on the road, you know, and that, like, and they may want that independence and freedom, but if they realistically, and they're 85 years old, and they really are having a hard time staying on the road, it's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you want these people to have independence, but at the same time, if they are not legally fit to drive, then they probably shouldn't be on the road because they're in
Another
endangerment.
question to pose here. So this actually swings back around to my mom's thing. So once she had the surgery, actually before the surgery, she was not allowed to drive for 6 months, right? And so she's now kind of getting close to the time where she would be allowed to drive again. But there is a class that they would like for her to take for people that have had like a traumatic like thing happen, and then you have to relearn how to drive. It's like a driver's ed thing, but like a medical kind of thing.
So that way you don't
Yeah,
have to go through
yeah.
with 16-year-olds.
Exactly.
Right.
So, do you think, well, this was a conversation that she and I had, that driver's ed should be covered by health insurance? Because it is a safety thing. I mean, it's a health thing. You know what I mean? If you are driving and you get into an accident and, well, or maybe not health insurance, but like auto insurance, some kind of insurance, life insurance, something.
Well, especially in a situation like this, I feel like it's completely...
Well, yeah. I personally feel like her driver's ed should be covered by her health insurance.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it's not, but it's a cheap thing. It's like $100 or something, so that'll work out. But,
yeah, but imagine if she didn't have the means to pay for that. Like,
and
that would
she
probably
needed to drive.
That'd probably be a pretty big deal. So, I don't know. I feel like that should be covered by... I don't know what you think.
I mean, that's almost like an occupational therapy. You know what I mean?
I was going to say, they might offer, like, depending on where it is, they might offer some kind of financial help. Like, it might almost be that they purposefully don't include it because they provide other means of assistance. Because it might be so many hurdles to get it covered that, or maybe there's, like, something with the insurance where it wouldn't always be covered with the insurance. So it's just easier to offer it at $100 and then provide assistance if you need it, kind of thing, maybe.
I mean, I personally feel like for that specific thing, because it literally is an occupational therapy. You know what I mean? And occupational therapy is covered by health insurance. Like, when she's at her therapy sessions, they practice getting in and out of this little fake car thing. And I think they may have even had, like, a little driving simulator thing. I'm not sure, but, like, why not have that covered? They had her practice baking cookies, you know what I mean? And that's covered by health insurance, so why not?
Cute.
Are they going to send her back to Safety Town and she's going to have to learn how to stop at a stop sign?
Oh,
Right.
dear.
But I think the driver's ed should be covered by, like, auto insurance.
Yeah,
Or
that's a
something.
good idea. Did either of you go to Safety Town when you were little?
Yeah.
I never did it either. I just had friends who did it.
I remember one of the parts of it was they put us in this like fake house thing that had smoke machines, and it was supposed to simulate if your house caught on fire.
Oh.
But if you could just imagine like 20 little kids like sitting on a bed in this fake house waiting for the smoke machine to turn on, it was kind of weird. Then I was like, okay kids, time to leave. And we're like, okay.
Just remember when the rave starts, kids.
Wait till you see it at night, children.
I always wanted to go to Safety Town when I was little. I'm a little disappointed. I always thought it looked so cool whenever I drove past and was like, whoa, it's a little city. I want to go to that. But alas.
I never went either. It's okay, Joe.
Maybe we should enroll now. Let's go
Yeah,
next
let's go.
weekend, maybe.
I'm down.
That'd
Let's
be-
Your
do a live
instructors.
podcast at Safety.
Your instructors will be younger than you. What Okay, Joe, stop at the stoplight.
I don't know what that is.
I'm so mad. Can you not?
Can you not?
Can we not?
Anyway, if you listeners have been following us for a little while, you'll know that every 10 episodes we have a special situation where you actually send in your ideas for topics, and that's next week. So for episode 60,
Listener topics.
give us some rapid fire questions to talk about. You can follow us or message us on Facebook, facebook.com/CYN podcast, or on Twitter, twitter.com/CYNPLZ, or I guess you could just look us up on the app because probably not as many people just go on twitter.com. You can also send us stuff in from our email. It's canyonnotpodcast@gmail.com. And if you want to follow us, we're on iTunes. Find us there. And yeah, I think I already mentioned... no, I didn't. SoundCloud. SoundCloud.com/CYN podcast.
Joe, your spiel is like the biggest run-on sentence. Because you never stop. It's just and.
I'm trying to keep them hooked. I don't want them to leave.
And did
so
I forget to tell you?
And did I forget to mention our Google Plus? No, we don't have a Google Plus page.
Thank God.
But we are on YouTube if you want to follow us. Unfortunately, we don't have enough followers to get like a YouTube URL because they changed stuff since I started on YouTube 7
Well,
years
you know what,
ago.
Joe? We'll be there one day.
Yeah, if we can get more followers on YouTube, we can change our URL.
Follow us on YouTube.
Do it, guys.
So that way we can change our URL. The ultimate aspiration for podcasters.
What did we learn today, friends? I learned...
You didn't forget, Joe. You're so good.
I'm so good at this after 59 episodes. I learned that I think we should be more open-minded about these alternatives to hospital births, and we should take some of them seriously if there is hard data for it.
I learned, and I'm continuing to learn, that mental health is not a cookie-cutter diagnosis. And there is no single treatment that works for everybody because the symptoms do not display the same.
I learned that every 10 years, all doctors need to go to Safety Town. And get re-upped.
I like it.
I like that. Maybe that'll be the title. Shelby's raising a hand.
No?
Shelby's stretching.
But she's stretching, but now Shelby has to come up with something.
What'd you learn today, Shelby?
What'd you learn? You don't know?
Listeners probably just think we live in a weird commune where people just come up randomly and just talk. Like, oh, and Jesse came. Oh, here's Shelby, and oh, here's Bryce. Like, we just live in one big megaplex.
Like, I don't know. It's like a live studio audience.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's more like Jesse needed like some popcorn. I happened to have a comment when he came out. Like, I love it.
Anyway, for those who don't want to adhere to Safety Town laws, can you not?
For those of us not following us on YouTube, can you please?
Oh.
For those of us that can't come up with something to say, can you not?